What jobs are actually safe from AGI?
Artificial intelligence could leave everyone unemployed.
Jobs will be disappearing to robots before we recognize
That's
them
most
as
likely to
beings.
foster human civilization.
We've been asking these questions for like 4 years, and we are right to be concerned, we are right to be worried. In 2023 alone, tech companies cut over 260,000 jobs. By 2025, US layoffs explicitly tied to AI had jumped past 55,000, more than triple the year before. And it's not just office jobs. Amazon now runs over 1 million robots across its warehouses, with internal plans to avoid hiring as many as 600,000 people over the next decade. So when we see the trends and we put the puzzles together, we are kind of concerned whether we are a McDonald's cashier, we work at Amazon warehouse, or we are a mid-level manager at some corporates. Sooner or later, AGI, or whatever you want to call it, it's coming for us. So in this video, we're gonna analyze the latest trends and try to predict how at risk your job is. Not based on the titles and roles. We are not gonna list the titles and roles that's gonna be eliminated, but we're gonna figure it out based on the type of the work that you do. So we're gonna see how many more years it might realistically survive. My name is Arya and the question is all about the emerging technologies, the impact of technologies on our lives. So if you're interested in these stories, you already know what to do. Every job we have, no matter what it's called, falls under one or more of 6 basic types of work. Once you sort your job into these, you can actually track it against where technology is. So the first type of work is cognitive work, processing information, analyzing and planning, like accountants, paralegals, or coders. The next one is physical work, manipulating the physical world, from heavy lifting to fine motor work. So whether you are a construction worker, an Uber driver, a cleaner, or even a dentist, you all do physical work. The third one is human interactions, which is heavily tied to communications. It can be persuading, teaching, or negotiating. So if you're a call center representative, or a teacher, or a therapist, you all fall under this. The fourth one is decision and accountability. Basically making calls that society assigns responsibility for. So whether you're a doctor, a judge, a president, or a mid-level manager at some corporate, your work falls under this. The fifth one is creative work, producing novel ideas. And these ideas can range from designs to entertainment or a way of doing the work. So whether you're a designer, filmmaker, writer, or a director, your job falls under this. And the last one is leadership and authority, which is basically exercising the social power. So if you are a CEO or president, or prime minister or something like that, your job falls under this. However, most real jobs are a blend of 2 or 3 of these. For example, I'm a multimedia designer, I do graphic design, I do the creative work, I do cognitive work, and I do physical work. So my role is a blend of 3 or 4 of these. So the more types of work you do, the less your job is at risk. So what we are gonna do now is we're gonna check them out one by one to see which one are at the front line. Let's start with cognitive work. Cognitive work is uniquely exposed because of what's actually made of: language, data, and pattern recognition. Inputs and outputs. The model can already read and produce natively, can draft, check, and redo a piece of analysis thousands of times in the time takes a person to do it once. And each attempt can be automatically graded against a right answer, which is exactly the kind of feedback loop that makes a system improve fast. And once a model gets good at cognitive tasks, it scales instantly. The same employee can be copied and run in parallel across every company that wants one. The clearest example of a job that's nothing but cognitive work is a radiology transcriptionist, dictating and typing up medical scan reports. And that's the pattern waiting for any job that's nothing but cognitive work, doing a repetitive task. Here is another most recent example. Freelance writing gigs on a major job platforms dropped roughly 30%, almost immediately after ChatGPT launched. Because it wasn't really about creativity, it was about producing text. And making generic and on-demand copy is exactly what AI is good at. So if a job is just cognitive work and nothing else, it should be at risk within 5 years. The next one is physical work, which is split into 2 different categories: structured and unstructured. And the difference between these two determines everything. Structured physical work is being automated at real scale, and the clearest proof of that is the one physical machine we have actually built almost perfectly: the car. Decades of narrow focused engineering on a single extremely well-defined mechanical problem is exactly why Waymo now provides roughly 500,000 paid driverless taxi rides every week across 10 US cities, up from 50,000 a week just 2 years ago, and is targeting 1 million rides a week by the end of 2026. Another structured labor work is Amazon Warehouse, which runs over 1 million robots across its warehouses and has internal plans to avoid hiring as many as 600,000 people over the next decade by automating up to 75% of warehouse operations. But unstructured physical work has a completely different story. Imagine a plumber who has to work every time in different environment, once in a bathroom, once in a kitchen, and another time somewhere in the basement. Or a dentist who has to deal with different mouths. Or a cleaner who has to adapt to a cluttered different environments every time. These all require constant real-time physical adaptation that current robotics can't reliably achieve yet. And generalizing the kind of precision on a self-driving car as to any random physical task is a much bigger jump than it sounds. Because the limitations aren't really about the intelligence. They're mechanical and economic. Yes, we do have robots like Boston Dynamics Atlas that moves incredibly well, almost like humans. But the cost of manufacturing sufficiently precise hardware, battery, and energy limitations, and the sheer difficulty of mass producing a mechanic that can handle virtually infinite physical variation remain major challenges. So if your job is physical work in a structured environment, your job is at risk within 5 years. Of course, in developed countries. But if your physical work is at unstructured environment, then it should be safe for at least next 20 years. Because based on the patterns and where the robotics is going and where it has to be, we can confidently say, not confidently, but probably it should be safe for next 20 years. The third one, next category, is human interactions, which is split in two types, and they have almost opposite outlooks. The first is interaction with a human, but just as a task wearing a human voice, like call center reps. But the other one is human interactions where making relationship and networking and being human is the thing. So with the first one, it has already started. Salesforce expects AI to resolve 50% of customer service cases by 2027. And Gartner projects conversational AI will cut contact center labor costs by 80 billion in 2026 alone, even while handling only about 1 in 10 interactions directly. So we can say probably in next year or next 2, 3, 4 years, it's going to completely take care of human interaction work at transferring information. But where interaction is about making relationship, that's where AI, AGI cannot touch, like teachers, therapists, caregivers. Right now, a round study found nearly 1 in 5 young adults aged 18 to 21 have used AI chatbots for mental health support, up sharply from the year before. But that's happening mostly because of access and privacy, not because AI outperforms a human. And multiple studies still find people rate AI-delivered supports as noticeably less trustworthy and less genuinely understanding than a human. Just to support my point, Hannah Arendt, the philosopher, says that human life is fundamentally relational. So she basically says something as simple as a promise or forgiveness is happening in a relationship. It has to be a human and another human on the other side. And it cannot be replaced with a machine or computer or AGI. Of course, when she passed away, it was 1975. There were no AGI, there were basic computers when she was very old and she passed away. But the thing is, someone understanding you as a human cannot be replaced by AGI or whatever it is. That's impossible. So that is why I believe interaction as a relationship is human-centered and cannot be replaced by AGI. But of course, AGI will provide tools for taking notes and providing, archiving documents, analyzing and everything. The fourth one is decision and accountability. Anyone whose job includes making a call that someone else has to be able to hold them responsible for, like doctors, judges, managers, compliance officers. AI can already generate the diagnosis, draft the ruling, model the decision. What it structurally cannot do is to be legally or professionally liable for it, because our entire legal and regularity system is built around the human being answerable. Like when OpenAI agents hacked another company AI, no one asked GPT, why is this happening? Everyone blamed and everyone asked, Sam Altman, why is this happening? So decision and accountability work should stay safe unless something major happens on the legal or regularity side, not the technology side alone. The fifth one is creative work. That is my job, most of my job. The commodity end of creative work is already getting hit hard. Job postings for computer graphic artists are down 33% since pre-ChatGPT levels. Even hiring for photographers has declined by 28%. So if your creative job is just about producing on-demand contents, then it is at high risk within 5 years. But what's holding up is the part above that. Creative direction, knowing what will actually land with a specific audience, making the judgment call between 10 AI generated options about which one is actually good, which is basically the fourth category, decision making. You have to make the decision. So as I said, if your creative job is just about production, it's already at high risk, unless it is combined with another category. And the last category is leadership and authority, which is basically an extension of category 4. No matter how capable AGI becomes, when something goes wrong, someone with a name and a face has to answer for it. When OpenAI shifts its strategy, cuts a deal, or claims a milestone like we've achieved AGI, that call gets attributed to Sam Altman, not GPT. Authority requires someone who can be praised, blamed, fired, or held to a promise. It is possible that in future AI companies become confident enough with their AI judgments, and in terms of legal and regulations, some adjustments happen. But at the end of the day, there has to be a face behind that AGI. And now we know that, based on what we do, how our job is at risk. And one thing that I personally do, and I suggest you do the same, is to do more of those circles. So if your job is cognitive work, try to expand it to taking responsibility and making decisions. So if your job is making decisions, try to do more physical work, something like that. You have to expand your set of work, types of work that you do. But I have to tell you that at the end of the day, we're all gonna have jobs. It's impossible that mass unemployment happens. Not because I say it, I wish that happens, and as Elon Musk said, we're all gonna have universal high income or basic income or whatever you want to call it. But unfortunately, that's not how economy works, unless it's revolutionized. This is what I'm gonna explore in the next video, and we're gonna see the future after AGI, after the humanoid robot, after that turning point in the humankind history. What's gonna happen to our jobs, what's gonna happen with economics, and what is with the singularity and everything that they mention. I will see you in the next video.